foundation only. But now we are beginning the providence, exactly the providence of restoration, which is very important if we understood that one. So started with Moses. So the providence of restoration, led by Moses, was built upon the foundation for the Messiah laid in Abraham's family. Nevertheless, the principle still requires Moses himself to lay the foundation for the Messiah. So he cannot inherit the vision that Abraham's established without fulfilling his own responsibility, without laying the foundation, his own uh, laying the foundation for him. So by restoring to indemnity, the foundation of faith and foundation of substance is necessary. So whenever the central figure for the providence changes, the new central figure, yeah, cannot inherit the providential will without first completing a similar responsibility of his own. It- Moses himself has to build upon, not to build, but make a foundation of faith and substance of his own before he can inherit the mission of Abraham. So furthermore, in this case, the foundation had to be laid anew because the scope of the providence had expanded from a family to a nation. So in the under the leadership of Moses, it becomes a bigger scope. Kay Jacob, nung nakaraang lecture, is only family level. But where we are now in a bigger scope. So obviously, mas mabigat ang responsibilidad ni Moses. So national foundation po siya. So, it requires foundation of faith. So, in foundation of faith, we all knew that kailangan ng central figure. So, after the conclusion for the 400 years period of the Israelites, slavery in Egypt, si Moses ang maging central figure to restore the foundation of faith. And Moses was different from all the central figure in that first, he was put in the position representing God acting in his stead. Second, God set up Moses to prefigure Jesus. This is 12 hours. There are a lot of Bible verses regarding why God represents, Moses representing God and prefigure Jesus. So yeah, kailangan ng central figure at si Moses ang central figure. So Moses stood on the foundation for the three successful symbolic offering by Abel, Noah, and Isaac. So siya ang tumatayo from this successful symbolic offering of Abel, Noah, and Isaac. The age of the providence to lay the foundation for restoration, when sacrifices had been offered for laying the foundation of faith, had come to a close. Humanity had entered a new era. This is a new era, starting with in the era of the leadership of Moses. Kasi nga, national na siya, and then it is ang age na kasi ito is natawag dito, the age of the providence of restoration. So, when they could receive God's words directly. Unlike, kung makita natin sa diagram, Isaac, Noah, and Abel, they are in the age of to lay the foundation of restoration. Ang ginagawa nila dati is they are offering when they pray to God, when nagkakatay sila ng hayop and then ini-offer na kay God. Pero pagdating kay Moses, iba na, ibang era na, ibang age na. Providence of restoration. This time, people can now receive directly God's words. So, yeah. Kaya ibang-iba sa era ni Moses. Which is really, people becomes closer more to God. So, thus, there was no longer any need of a symbolic offering. Yung pinagkaiba. So, hence, Moses could restore the foundation of faith merely by obedience to God's will, God's words, while fulfilling a dispensation of authority for the separation of Satan. So there's a need central figure, Moses. Condition, not offering animals, but obedience to the word of God. Yun. And then, kailangan pa rin ng indemnity condition or indemnity period. So, dispensation of authorities for the separation of Satan. So, dahil meron itong tatlo, Moses was able to lay the foundation of faith. Okay. So when God instructed Moses, Moses should have followed God. Kung ano yung sinasabi ni God. Kaya, mabasa natin sa Bible, di ba? There are a lot of conversations between God and Moses. And Moses also always obedience to God. So we will know that later on. So, yun yung foundation of faith. Yun, na-establish na yung foundation of faith. How about foundation of substance? So, yun nga, for the past lectures regarding kay Abraham, Noah, Jacob, so yan, foundation of faith is easy, right? Of course, it takes condition, but it's always been established. The hardest part is the foundation of substance. Why? Because that's what I have said always, that when we talk about foundation of substance, we have to deal with other people. So, lalabas yung mga fallen nature, kailangang i-overcome, mga ganun yung mga nalalaman natin, overcoming the fallen nature with other people. On your own, it's easy, but if you deal with other people, it's quite difficult. At dito lagi nagkakatawa ang mga central figure. So let's study kung anong nangyari sa time ni Moses under his leadership. Okay, so upon entering the age of the Providence of Restoration, God worked to lay the national foundation of substance. So, since Moses stood as God to the people and represented Jesus, he stood in the position of parent to the Israelites when laying the national foundation of faith. So, ang posisyon ni Moses, siya ang magulang sa mga Israelites. But when we talk about the relationship between God and Moses, Moses is a child of God. And when we talk about Moses and the Israelites, kung nakita natin sa diagram, Moses is the Abel representing Abel and Israelites representing Cain, which means Cain and Abel should be united, and most especially Cain should bow down to Abel. So Israelites should bow down to Moses. So let's see kung anong nangyari. Are they following Moses, yung mga Israelites? So concurrently, Moses was the prophet with the mission to prepare the way for Jesus. Hence, he stood in the position of a child to Jesus, who was to come as the true parent. Therefore, with respect to the Israelites, Moses stood in the position of Abel as a central figure for the national foundation of substance. So, once Moses had secured the position of Abel, the Israelites standing in the position of Cain were supposed to fulfill the national indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature. Through how? Their obedience to Moses. So, paano mawala kasi when you talk about foundation of substance, removing the fallen nature, right? And removing the fallen nature, ang gagawin ng mga Israelites, sabi nga dito, they have to obey Moses. Absolutely. By doing so, they would establish the national foundation of substance. So, So, where are we? They would establish the national foundation of substance. So, bottom line here in the foundation of substance, kailangan lang sumunod ang mga Israelites kay Moses. Pero, may condition dapat si Moses kung paano niya mapasunod ang mga Israelites sa kanya. Right? Okay, so, kailangan lang sumunod, matanggal ang fallen nature, so mahirap nga kasi sundin mo yung tao, kailangan mong kung minsan in our organization as well, we have a lot of this situational, right, na it's hard for us to bow down, even me myself, it's hard for us to humble down ourselves to follow our leader, right? That's a hard thing. If you're a king, especially you're a member, it's hard for you because you have your own fallen nature as well. So, napaka-importante pala yung you have to follow. Sometimes, if it's hard to understand, yun, mahirap intindihin, kailangan pa rin mag-follow. Yun. Okay, so, yun yung foundation of faith, meron na foundation of faith, yun yung supposedly, yun pala yung supposedly gagawin. Foundation of faith and foundation of substance. Kasi we will still study kung nangyari ba to. Ang foundation of faith and foundation of substance. But ito yung supposedly gagawin ni Moses. Foundation of faith and foundation of substance. Dapat ganun. Tingnan natin later on kung nangyari pa. So, so in this diagram, it is the comparison between the Moses course and the Jesus course. Just an overview. So, kung titingnan natin dito, Moses was, magkakapareho sila. Yeah, they are similar course. So, very interesting, right? So, kung titingnan natin, Moses brought Israelites out of Egypt, the Hispanic world, with miracles and signs across the Red Sea, and had them wander through the wilderness before entering the promised land of Canaan. This is also foreshadowed the course on which Jesus would one day lead Christians, the second Israel. With miracles and signs, Jesus would bring Christians out of the lives of sin and led them safely across the troubled sea of evil. He would take them through a desert devoid of life-giving water before guiding them into the Garden of Eden, God's promise. So both courses were prolonged 3 times before because the Israelites' faithlessness. So they have a similarity, and both courses were prolonged. So this is an overview na almost the same yung ano nila, life course. So alam na natin yung kung ano yung life ni Moses. May ano na rin tayo, may advanced idea na rin tayo what would be the life of Jesus Christ. So, first national foundation, first national course to restore Canaan. Yun, kasi kung merong first, ibig sabihin may second to, may third. So, parang napahaba siya. So, sa first national course tayo, so, first national course, kailangan, okay, again, kailangan foundation of faith and foundation of substance. Ito yung kinakailangan. So, first, we have to deal with foundation of faith. Foundation of faith, kailangan ng central figure, right? So, in order for Moses to become the central figure, so, to restore the foundation of faith and be qualified to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, he had to complete a dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan. Kinakailangan niya to, dispensation of 40 and following the words of God. So, si Moses ang central figure, but in order for Moses to be qualified, kailangan niya gawin itong 40 years and then condition following the words of God. So, to achieve this purpose, Moses was brought to the Pharaoh's palace and the center of the satanic world and spent ilang years? 40 years there, completing the dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan under God's words. Through this, he restored the foundation of faith. So, nung andun si Moses sa palace for 40 years, dun nangyari ang first national course in laying the foundation of faith. Nung nagstay si Moses doon ng 40 years and studying the words of God, studying together with the Pharaoh. And alam naman natin ang nag-alaga kay Moses, yung nanay niya. It's a very long story, so I can't share this with you, but you can read the Bible, the story of Moses, how he was born, how he was being take good care of his mother. So that you can also, if you have spare time, you can read Bible as well. So, so we can read the Bible together. So yun, foundation of faith has been laid na. Tapos na siya. Kasi Moses following the words of God in 40 years. So, yun, 40 years old na rin si Moses that time. Natapos niya yung foundation of faith. How about substance? Kasi tapos na yung foundation of faith, kailangan ng substance. Ano po yung substance? This is removing the fallen nature. Ano po yung pinapag-usapan kanina? Kailangan ang mga Israelites susunod kay Moses. Right? Para mangyari ang foundation of substance. So because of the faithlessness of the Israelites, the foundation shattered. And the first national course to restore Canaan failed. Kasi hindi sumunod ang Israelites kay Moses. There's a short story, glimpse of the story, nung tinulungan ni Moses yung Israelites, tinulungan ni Moses yung Israelites, pinatay niya yung Egyptian. Tapos, na-misunderstood yun ng Israelites. Killer si Moses. Natakot, imbis na maging grateful yung Israelites, natakot siya kay Moses. Baka daw papatayin din siya kagaya ng pinatay niya yung Israelites, yung Egyptian. So, yun. Ikaw na ngayon pinagtanggol, kapag hindi grateful, yun, hindi siya naging grateful, natakot siya instead. So, kumalat yun sa iba't, siyempre, chismis-chismis. O, kumalat yun, and then, most of the Israelites did not follow Moses. Kaya, ang nangyari, hindi po nangyari ang first, yun. Ang resulta, hindi po nangyari ang first national course to restore Canaan. The Israelites people did not follow Moses. Yun, hindi nangyari yung first national course. Second national course, since walang naniwala kay Moses, mag-lay ulit ng foundation of faith. So when the first national course to restore Canaan ended in failure, Satan claimed the 40 years of Moses' life in Pharaoh's palace. It was being wasted, actually. Hence, for Moses to begin the second national course to restore Canaan, ang gagawin niya? He had to lay a new foundation of faith by completing another period of 40 years to restore true indemnity his lost 40 years in the palace. Kung anong nawala niya sa palace na 40 years na na-claim ni Satan. Gagawin niya ulit yun. Ililay niya ulit yung foundation of faith. Kaya, ginawa ni Moses went through a second dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan during the 40 years he spent in the wilderness of Midian. Nag-travel si Moses from Egypt to Midian, the wilderness of Midian. For 40 years, nag-stay siya doon. That is his condition ni Moses para makapag-lay ng foundation of faith. There he stored the foundation of faith needed to embark upon the second national course to restore Canaan. Nangyari po, after 40 years. After 40 years in Midian, inutusan si Moses ni God na bumalik sa Egypt. Kasi nga, ang mission ni Moses, bring the Israelites out of Egypt and going to Canaan. Right? Hindi pa nangyari yun. Kaya kailangan niyang bumalik sa Egypt. Ngayon, papunta na siya sa Egypt. Ang problema, sabi ni Moses, God, how can ako doon, when I go back to Egypt, nobody knows me because already 40 years ago, and those people who knew me already died. How can I let them know that I am Moses, I am the one who sent you to bring them from going to Canaan, ganon. Paano sila maniwala sa akin? Kaya this time, binigyan si Moses ni God. Kaya itong dahilan kung bakit binigyan si Moses ng power to have these 3 signs and 10 plagues. For the people of Israelites to believe in him and to defeat the Pharaoh's mga magician. Okay, so once Moses restored the foundation of faith in the wilderness of Midian, he also secured the position of Abel in fulfilling the national indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature. So, kung nangyari yung foundation of faith, Moses na-restore na rin yung position ni Abel. So, he's ready to become an Abel. So, God worked the dispensation to start the first national course to restore Canaan when Moses struck and killed an Egyptian. Similarly, to work the dispensation to start the second national course to restore Canaan, God granted Moses 3 signs and 10 plagues with which to prevail over the Egyptian. So yun, binigyan si Moses ng 3 signs and 10 plagues ni God. Ang goal talaga doon is for people to believe in him. Kasi pag bumalik si Moses, walang nakakilala sa kanya. Mga patay na yung first generation yung time. Yung mga tatanda na that time, matay na rin. Okay, so, ayun, punta na si Moses, nagano na siya ng budget niya. Nandun yan sa story sa Moses. So the Israelites believed and followed Moses. Hence, they could embark upon the second national course to restore Canaan. So that's some 10 plagues, 3 signs and 10 plagues, a lot of story that in the Bible. And then inalaw na ng Pharaoh na paalisin ang mga Israelites kasama si Moses. Malis na sila dito kasi pati ang mga anak ni anak ng pero, delikado na rin. Kaya, pinayagan ng pero nang mali sila. Kaya naniwala, so dahil sa 10 plagues, tsaka 3 signs, naniwala ang mga Israelites kay Moses, kaya sumunod ang mga Israelites kay Moses. Yun yung story na natin ni Moses ang yung dagat, tapos tumawid sila, yun. I think you know that story, that's very famous. So the Israelites had to remain faithful and obedience to Moses throughout their journey. Yun lang yung gagawin nila. Until they had traversed the wilderness with unwavering faith in Moses and entered the land of Canaan, the national foundation of substance would not be established. Yun. They only had to follow Moses. So in the first national course towards Canaan, if the Israelites had followed Moses, they would have been led along the direct route by way of the land of the Philistines and would have entered Canaan in 21 days. However, in the second course, God did not lead the people along the direct route. He was worried that when they encountered the warlike Palestinians, they might again turn faithless and return to Egypt. Instead, God led them across the Red Sea and through the wilderness in a long detour. God planned to bring them into Canaan after 21 months. Okay. So yun, imbis na 21 days lang sana, travel sila dito, the diagram, napunta sila dito sa 21 months. Kasi dito kasi may mga warrior na Palestinians. And nakikita kasi ni Moses, ni God, na nag-wave yung faith nila, yung mga Israelites kay Moses. So, pag ma-encounter nila yung mga warrior na Palestinians, posibleng they will become faithful. Kaya dito sila pinadaan. Ha? Ibis na 21 days lang sana, 21 months na rin. Naging 21 months. So, the Providence of Restoration and the Tabernacle, the significance of the purpose of the tablets of stone, the Tabernacle, and the Ark of the Covenant. So, during this time, nung papunta na sila dumaan sila, travel sila 21 months, pero napadaan sila sa Mount Sinai. Yun. The Israelites arrived in the wilderness of Sinai at the beginning of the third month. During his fast on Mount Sinai, Moses received God's instruction concerning the Ark of the Covenant, the tabernacle, and 2 tablets of stone. So Moses receiving God's words, and that is the 2 tablets of stone, the 10 Commandments was written there. The 2 tablets inscribed with the words symbolized restored Adam and Eve, and also symbolized Jesus and his would-be bride, Holy Spirit. The tabernacle was a representation of Jesus in symbol. The Ark of the Covenant represented the cosmos and at the same time was a smaller representation of the tabernacle. So, kung titignan natin sa diagram, para mas mabilis maintindihan, ito yung na-receive ni Moses sa Mount Sinai. Yung 2 tablets of stone. Ang 2 tablets of stone, nag-represent siya Adam and Eve, kaya napaka-importante itong rock na to. Also, it represented Jesus and at the same time, Holy Spirit. Yun. Ang 2 tablets of stone, ilagay siya dito sa Ark of the Covenant, tapos ilagay dito siya sa tabernacle. Kaya, so yun. So the question here is, for what purpose did God give the tablets of stone, the tabernacle, and the Ark of the Covenant? Bakit binigyan ni God si Moses ng ganon? Yung 10 Commandments, saka mag-build siya ng tabernacle. The Israelites repeatedly turned faithless during their journey. So, in the end, there was a danger that even Moses might act faithlessly. So to cope with the situation, God set up an object of faith, one which would remain unchanged, although the people might change. Kaya binigay ito ni God kay Moses.
5 minutes.
Okay. So, or if the people were going, like, for an object para pag maging unfaithful, pag nag-wave yung faith nila, makita nila yung tabernacle and it represents God. This is the symbol of God. Kaya meron tayong yan ang symbol din ng mga temple. Well, that is, the beginning of that is the tabernacle. Okay, so the first foundation for the tabernacle, nagfasting, paano ginawa ni Moses, nagfasting siya for 40 days. Pagbaba niya, umakyat sa bundok, pagbaba niya, faithless yung tao. Kaya galit na galit si Moses. Napon niya yung two tablets of stone, pasag. So the first foundation for tabernacle, hindi nangyari. So, second foundation, umakyat ulit si Moses sa Mount Sinai for 40 days again, fasting ulit. Ang ginawa, this time, siya na yung nagsulat, tapos nag-dictate lang si God. Yan. And then, pagbaba niya, lost faith again. But on the third attempt, but the Israelites lost faith again and failed to maintain the second foundation for the tabernacle, and it was invaded by Satan. The providence to restore this foundation was prolonged to third attempt. So the third foundation na, tabernacle. 40 days, 40-day mission to spy out Canaan. So, during this time, andun na sila sa Kadesh Barnea. Sa Kadesh Barnea, dala-dala nila, ito actually yung two tablets of stone. Already started the journey. So, merong 40-day mission to spy out land of Canaan. And doon sila sa Kadesh Barnea, nagstay sila doon for 40 days. May pinadala siyang 12 spies na ipadala doon sa Canaan. Na sinabihan niya, tingnan niyo yung mga Canaan kung anong situation doon. Pwede ba tayong pumasok agad-agad? Pagbalik ng mga 12 spies, 10 spies gave faithless reports and 2 gave faithful reports. Negative yung 10, positive yung 2. So, malamang lahat negative, magiging negative. So, Israelites murmured and against Moses. They are complaining. So, the third foundation for tabernacle, wala pa rin. Failure for the second national course. So, due to the faithlessness of the Israelites, imbis na 21 months, na-prolong ng 40 years. Oh my God. Paikot-ikot sila doon sa Kadesh Barnea tapos sa wilderness for 40 years dahil sa kasalanan ng faithlessness ng 10 spies. So, kaya dumating ang third national course to restore Canaan. Foundation of faith, si Moses. Yes, they had the tabernacle already. They already built the tabernacle. They're doing the foundation of 40 years in the wilderness. Yun, paikot-ikot sila dun. Indemnity din nila yun. And that is part of also the foundation of faith. Then, ang foundation of substance centering on Moses. So, this time, ito yung nagko-complain ang mga Israelites kay Moses. Na gutom sila, and then, hindi na napigilan ni Moses. Nawalan siya ng pasensya. So, struck the rock twice in this once. And we all know that the stone symbolizes Jesus. So, Jesus might be struck again. So, the Messiah might possibly receive a misfortune because of this yung ginawa ni Moses, striking the rock twice. So, the foundation of substance centering in Moses, we have 5 slides. Centering on Moses, foundation of substance still, because the Israelites did not follow Moses. So, as a consequence, he was not permitted to enter the land of Canaan. So, striking the rock twice. Gusto niyang pumasok, pero hindi siya napasok ni God. Kaya ang nangyari, imbis na si Moses, napasa ang responsibilidad kay Joshua. So, God elevated Joshua to Moses' position. So, Joshua sent 2 men to spy out the fortified city of Jericho. When they all returned from Jericho, the 2 spies made a faithful report saying, all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of us. So, si Jericho ang nagdala sa mga second generation papasok sa Canaan. Kasi mga first generation namatay na rin. Nung sila sa 40 years in the wilderness. Second generation na ang nakapasok sa land of Canaan. Si Moses na iwan lang. So, the younger generation of Israelites raised in the wilderness and all believed the spies' words. And this faith enabled them to start the third course. So, they entered the land of Canaan and defeated the 31 kings altogether. So, nalay ang foundation of faith, nalay ang foundation of substance. Kay Moses, and kinontinue ni Joshua sa substance. Based on this victory, laid the foundation of substance in the third national course and established the national foundation for the Messiah. So yun, may foundation of faith, meron ng foundation of substance. So ibig sabihin, meron ng foundation for the Messiah. Ang tanong, pwede na bang padala ang Messiah ni God? However, the fallen people have really founded nations, such as Egypt, led by satanic rulers, opposing God's providence of restoration. Therefore, it would be necessary to build a heavenly sovereign kingdom before the Messiah would come. However, once the younger generation of Israelites entered Canaan, they also became faithless. Hence, God's providence was prolonged again and would suffer repeated setbacks until the time of Jesus. Hindi pa pwedeng ipadala. Kasi bakit? Kakapasok pa lang nila, kakastart pa lang nila, wala pa silang nation mismo. May mga nation na during that time. Tapos along the way, naging faithless ang mga second generation. Maraming story yun. Nag-divide ang Canaan, North and South, mga ganun. So, a lot of stories. So, yun po. It was being established, the foundation of faith and substance, the national foundation. The problem is, they are just started. Established pa lang, national foundation. But, meron ng mga nation, kaya, ma-prolong, obviously. The coming of the Messiah couldn't come, wala pang enough foundation. So, yun. Kaya ma-prolong. So, lessons from the Moses course. First, even by studying the providence centered on Moses alone, we cannot but come to conclusion that God exists and has been guiding human history toward the realization of one absolute purpose. Kahit nag-fail si Moses, God has to find a way. I mean, kahit maraming pagsubok naranasan ng Israelites together with Moses, has to find a way until si Joshua, nakapasok sila sa Canaan. So second, God does not intervene in the human portion of responsibility while He predestines absolutely that His will be fulfilled. Third, the greater one's mission, the greater the test one will face. Fourth, with the fall as condition, Satan bound human beings in a relationship with him. Consequently, God does not grant grace to people without unnecessary condition. For if he were to do, Satan would make accusation. Yes. Therefore, when God is about to give grace, He puts the person through a test, either before or after the grace, to prevent Satan's accusation. So after the grace, we may receive test even after, usually before, sometimes after. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you learned this lecture, and good evening.
Thank you very much. Let's give Kuya Herwin a big round of applause. Yan, mahaba pa. Kuya Julius, hindi kaya ng 30 no pag mahaba. Tsaka parang mas nakaka-conscious pag time bound. So, mas maganda i-express mo yung gusto mo pagka kaya lang di naman pwedeng unlimited, only combo text. So, we have learned that mahirap maging leader. So, mahirap mong paniwalaan. Mahirap maging tao pala. So, do you want a break or let's go on? Nag-excuse po si Ma'am Sylvia. Is it okay, Ma'am Jeannie Villasan, if you are the next one to present? Okay, thank you very much. So our next presenter is from from the bang batch? Teka lang po nabura yung ko, hanapin ko lang. Sandali lang. Is Ma'am Jeannie Villasan, and she is from third batch. So her lecture is part 1, chapter 2, section 1, the root of sin. Please let's give her a round of or virtual round of applause. Yay. Take it away, ate.
Good evening po. Sorry po, ma-off ang
Good evening po.
Kasi mahina talaga ang signal dito sa amin.
Okay lang po. What do you want me to help? Ano pong gusto nyo?
I try my very best po na hindi maputol. Start ako ng screen share. Wait lang po. Nakikita? Nakikita po, Doc?
Yes po. Yun lang pong sound. Pwedeng lakasan ng konti.
Okay po. Hindi na talaga itong ano po, mic.
Okay na po. Okay na po.
Okay.
Ganun lang pong frequency.
Okay, good evening. Good evening po, elders.
Good evening.
Once again, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jenny Villasan from batch 3 and currently residing in Ligan City, Mindanao. And my topic for tonight in chapter 2, the human fall, and in section 1, the root of the sin.
Excuse. Jenny, ano mo, slideshow para medyo malaki.
Okay, sige po, sir. Hindi kasi ako marunong. Wait lang po.
Jen, Ma'am Jen, pakipindot enables editing.
Hindi kasi ako marunong mag
Tingnan mo yung taas. Enable editing.
slideshow daw, dahil para madako.
Okay.
Ay.
Yan.
Okay na po.
Ay, nawala.
Sir. Ano, nawala, Day? Yes. You are screen sharing. Share. Okay po. Nakikita po, Doc?
Nakikita po, kaya lang po wala siya dyan. Di ba sa bandang baba pa yun? Yan. Okay po. Kitang-kita. Move pa.
Wait lang po Pa kasi ako marunong. Ito na. Okay na po.
Yes po.
The human fall. In this chapter, the fall makes us clear or make us identify who is Satan and what is the origin of the evil and what is the origin of the root of the sin of the humanity. All people have an original mind, which inclines them to pursue goodness. Yet, even without our being aware of it, we are driven by evil forces to perform evil deeds, which we do not want to do. Totoo nga, dito sa isip natin ay gusto natin na mabuti ang gawin natin, pero yung action natin or ang ginagawa natin is kumukontradict sa iniisip natin. In Christianity, the master of these evil forces is known as Satan. Therefore, to extirpate evil by its root and thereby end sinful history and usher in an era of goodness, we must first expose the motivation and origin of Satan. Who is Satan and saan siya nanggaling? and recognize the destruction he has wrought upon human life. This explanation of the human fall will clarify on these issues. No one has known the root of sin. Totoo. Wala sa atin ang may alam kung ano ba yung root of sin. In Christians, on the basis of the Bible, have held a bad belief that Adam and Eve's eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil was the root of sin. They have thought that the fruit was that of an actual tree. So, simula pa lang, yun na ang sinasabi sa atin na kaya nagkaroon ng may original sin, kumbaga tayo mula ipinanganak pa lang dahil ang ating mga unang ninuno ay kumain ng fruit at sinasabi pa nila nga that fruit is an apple. But would God, the loving parent of humanity, make a fruit which could cause the fool to look so attractive? Would he place it where his children could reach it so easily? So ito, tayo bang mga parent, ilalagay ba natin yung fruit kung titingnan natin na could harm our children? How can something one eats cause the original sin, which can be transmitted to one descendant? So, ang pagkain ba ng apple na magkakaroon ng original sin, matatransmit sa mga descendants natin? Hindi naman siguro. Would the God of love test humans so mercilessly by a means that could cause their death? Adam and Eve would not have risked their lives and disobeyed God only to obtain some delicacy. Therefore, we can surmise that the fruit of the tree of good and evil could not have been an ordinary fruit. Rather, it must have been something so extraordinarily stimulating that even the fear of death did not deter them from grasping it. Many important parts of the Bible are described in symbolism and metaphor. So, in the Bible, hindi sinasabi doon yung exact na ano ba tawag doon? Or yung eksakto na or for example fruit, yung exact fruit, kasi inaano nila rin is symbolize or metaphor. To learn what the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil represents, let us investigate the tree of life, which stood next to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So before natin malalaman kung ano ang fruit, tingnan muna natin kung ano ba yung tree of life. It is an actual tree, yung punong kahoy. Let us find out about the tree of life from the Bible. We can infer that the Israelites of the Old Age look to the tree of life as their hope. Likewise, we can deduce from Revelation 20 that the hope of all Christians from the time of Jesus until today has been to approach and partake of the tree of life. However, it is written in Genesis 3:24 that Adam fell, God blocked his path to life, stationing the tree with a flaming sword to guard it. From this, we can deduce that Adam's fall was tree of life. Adam was cast out of the Garden of Eden without having a taste of the tree of life. For fallen people ever since, the tree of life has remained a hope and fulfilled. The tree of life symbolizes an ideal man to realize the ideal of creation. Dan, hindi pa ng kahoy, the tree of life is a perfect example. The tree of knowledge of good and evil represents the ideal woman or the perfect Eve. The word using the form of a vine, a branch, like vine, to give us a hint.
Okay, due to technical problem, nawala po si Ate Jenny. So, si Ma'am Sylvia po ay nagpaalam. They're going to have a condition yata, prayer condition. Kaya, ano pa siya, dahil meron daw po silang, natin, kuya si ano, meron po kasi silang special condition, 8 p.m. Ayan na si Ate. Gusto mo ako gusto mo? Ako mag-share, tapos ikaw ang para mas kumonte ang bandwidth mo. Anong gusto mo?
Okay po.
Lang po. Ayun, nandiyan ka na po ba? Open ko lang po. Yun ang hindi ko, ang problema ko siya mag-YouTube. Ilang kaya, hindi ko makikita. Part 1 po yun, no? For purpose, something ba yun? Ayun. Section. Dali lang, hanapin ko lang.
Okay.
Wala. Kita mo po? Chapter, ano nga po ba kayo?
Chapter 2.
Ito kung tama, ano na. Chapter 2. Hindi ba itong binuksan ko? No?
Okay, tama po.
Ayan na, ito na po. Saan na kayo, te?
Susunod, di pa. Hindi pa go. Okay,
Before.
Dito.
Okay na to?
Tree of Life to. Okay.
Sandali lang.
Okay. pwede ko mahingi yung ano, Doc, yung control.
Sandali lang, te. Nahanap pa kita.
Thank you. Thank you po.
Ako, Te, subok kung nakagagalaw mo na. Te, okay. Okay na po ba?
Hindi pa magalaw, Doc.
Ayun, kung saan ka na nakapunta, te.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Pwedeng bitawan mo lang sandali. Off ko lang yung microphone ko.
Okay, let's continue. The tree of life is an ideal man fully realized idea of creation. It symbolizes perfected Adam. The tree of life of knowledge of good and evil represents the ideal woman, Eve. The Bible refers to Jesus using the metaphors of a vine and a branch. Likewise, a hint about the secret of the human fall, I provided the symbolism of these trees to represent perfected Adam and Eve. Unstable po talaga. So there were many trees in the Garden of Eden. Need instructions specifically about the tree of life, knowledge of good and evil. Not them, they were free to eat any fruit from other trees, but they should not touch or eat these two trees. People have thought that the Garden of Eden is a
Ako na lang. Sabihin mo kung next slide.
Sige, sige. Thank you po, Doc. Okay. People have thought that the tree of Eden is a specific tree on earth. However, Father had said that it refers to the bodies of Adam and Eve. So, that it was alright to eat fruits from other trees, he was referring to the other part of their body. A very important point. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were their ancestors. The tree of life and the tree of good and evil, and the sixfold are God and Eve. Next po, Doc. Thank you. Next, let us look at
Ate Jean, nandiyan ka pa? Ay, nawala na siya. So, anong ano natin? Let's wait. Kuya, anong ano? Ako pala
Ano,
moderator. Nawala.
nag-log out.
Ayan
Si
na,
ano?
ayan na.
Ayan,
Ayan
yan na.
na.
Wala.
Magician si ano, Jenny.
Sorry. Hindi talaga to 30 minutes, Doc. Hindi ko talaga pwede try ko lang siguro na wala.
Ano, hindi kaya?
Wala siya. There. Pwede basahin ko na lang?
Ayan, ate, gumanda yung boses mo. Gumanda ang ano mo. Clear ka, ate, clear.
As continue the activity of the serpent, it the Bible, the Bible was able to converse with people. So, the serpent can talk. Number 2, it calls the human fall or you who are spiritual beings. And number 3, for the serpent knew the will of God. For human beings to eat fruit of knowledge of good and evil.
Okay, Ate Ginny was again disconnected. So, I think, Ate Sylvia, you're there. Pwede na po ba? Let's call her later na lang po. Ate Sylvia? Yes,
Thank you.
Kuya.
Good evening.
Yes, ate. Are you okay na po? Pwede na po kayo?
Okay, sandali lang. Sandali lang, mga 3 minutes na po. Yeah, I will.
Okay po. I'll stop my share na, Kuya Julius. Or we still wait for Ate Ginny. So those are the problems pagka virtual tayo, no? Pero pagka face-to-face naman, yun. Mahirap naman tayo magkita, bawal.
Okay, mag-share na po ba ako?
Stop ko lang po yung share ko, ma'am. Pakilala naman
you
kita,
po.
ma'am, kasi meron ako. Yun daw ang papel ko ngayon.
Wow.
Ano, MA. May MA. Wait a minute. Tubig na mainit. Sandali lang po. So, sorry for that. Hindi po nakatuloy si Ma'am Jean. Ginny. Ano man tamang pronunciation nun? Ginny. So,
Jenny.
we will continue. Jenny. So, we will continue with our lecture from the other batch. So, we will call again Kuya Ate Jenny when she come back pag medyo stable na ang kanyang internet. So, ngayon po, from the second batch, si Ma'am Mrs. Sylvia maraming pera, dear pera, dea pera. Di pera o dia pera. So she will talk about the part 2, chapter 1, section 3, the providence of restoration in Abraham's family. So let us give her a big hand.
Thank you so much po, Doki, for
Take it
that beautiful
away,
introduction.
ma'am.
Please allow me to share my screen. Then,
Opo.
thank you. Mhm. Just say goodbye. All right po. All right. So, sorry. So, good evening once again, my dearest brothers and sisters. Welcome to our Friday session of our Universal Principle Training Academy class. Tonight, I am so privileged to share with you and learn along with you once again the section 3 of the chapter 1 of the part of the divine principle, which is the providence of restoration in Abraham's family. So, we knew that due to the fallen act of Ham, which is feeling ashamed of his father's nakedness, that the providence of restoration in Noah's family um, was not fulfilled. Nevertheless, um, God had absolutely predestined that the purpose of creation would one day be realized. So, ano yun, talagang hindi yun maawat, ika nga. And then, therefore, God called Abraham. This is after 160, from Noah's family. 400 years from Noah's family had Abraham been called by God in place of Noah. So Abraham's family was to restore the foundation for the Messiah, and which and receive the Messiah upon that foundation. So alaman naman natin po na para ma-establish po ang foundation for the Messiah, foundation of faith, and foundation of substance should first be laid. So thus Abraham had to restore through indemnity the foundation of faith, and his son, Abraham himself has to lay the foundation of faith, and his sons Esau and Jacob had to lay the foundation of substance through indemnity. So yeah, before the foundation for the Messiah can really be fully established. So only then, if these foundations can be laid, Abraham was to inherit the mission of Noah, and thus the mission of Adam. And because of that capacity, he could stand or represent as the restored Adam. So, kung mai-establish niya itong dalawa, and then this, para siya yung mag-stand as the restored Adam, inheriting the mission of Noah and Abraham. Okay, so Abraham was to restore through indemnity all the conditions which had been given to Noah to fulfill, but which were lost to Satan due to Ham's sin. So lahat ng, di po ba, lahat ng mga conditions na nililay ah, ni Noah ay nawala dahil doon sa act of his son Ham being ashamed na nawala yung lahat, kailangang i-restore po ni Abraham. So the first condition which Noah's family was lost to Satan were the 10 generations from Abraham to Noah and the 40-day period of judgment. So, yun to yung mga conditions kung saan yung para ma-establish, kailangan kasing i-establish ang foundation of faith of substance, no? Pero yung 10 generations na inihanda kung saan nagtoil si God para magiging substantial or ma fully realized yung mga conditions na yun. Pati yung, di ba, si Noah, naglay siya ng foundation of faith, making the ark years. Pero yung, ano din, after it was being lost, yung 10 generations din na piniprepare from Noah to Abraham, kailangan din niya talagang, kumbaga, justify niya. Yun, yan. So, pati yung 40 days na judgment, kung saan dapat ma-recreate na yung cosmos, makapag-start si God ng panibagong cosmos, niwala talaga yun ni Satan. So, to restore through this through indemnity, God chose Abraham to inherit Noah's mission after an indemnity period of 10 generations and 400 years had passed since Noah. Kaya siya napili after 400 years pa. That is to restore the 40 days judgment and the 10 generation uh, 10 generations, ano ba yan? 10 generations from Adam to Noah. Yun. So, kasi alam naman natin na Noah was also chosen 10 generations after Adam's family failed dun sa condition na dapat ilay din ni Cain at saka ni Abel. So, yun, kailangan i-restore back yun ni Noah lahat. So, the second set of conditions is Noah's family lost to Satan was the position of the father of faith and the position of Ham. Yun, ito din yung pangalawang set of condition na dapat ma-restore din ni ni Abraham, I'm sorry. To assume the role of the father of faith in place of Noah, Abraham had to make a symbolic offering, which is malalaman natin ngayon later on, in faith with a loyal heart, just as Noah did when he built the ark. So, ito din po yung kailangan din pong i-inherit kasi dapat ni Noah yung being a father of faith. Ni Noah, having expressed his loyal heart, zealous heart to God by making the ark for 120 years. Kailangan ibalik ni Noah. May Abraham. Kailangan niyang ma-inherit. So, next, how could Abraham restore the position of Ham? Yung position na Ham na dapat maging inheritor o maging nasa Abel position. Ham must have represented Abel, the most beloved. Since Satan claimed Ham, God needed to claim someone whom Satan loved most. This is the reason God called Abraham, who was the first son of Terah, the idolater. Terah, kung alam natin, if we recall, he is the son of from the lineage of Abraham, son of pero sa firstborn po siya. So, yan. Si Abraham. Dahil alam naman natin yung reason why. Alam natin yung reason why. Bakit kailangan yun ang i-claim ni God. Dahil nga, na-claim na ni Satan ng 2 beses yung si Abel at saka si Ham. Yes. So, because of that, para ma-inherit niya yun, yung mga conditions na na-mention natin earlier, para ma-restore or ma-restore ni Abraham lahat ng mga conditions na iwala to Satan. Abraham was asked by God to have the symbolic offering. So God commanded Abraham to offer a dove, a ram, and a heifer. These 3 sacrifices symbolize the cosmos, which is completed through the 3 stages of the growing period. The dove represented the formation stage, and the ram the growth stage, while the heifer is in the completion stage. Alam naman natin na pili na si Abraham, no? Lahat naman ng pinili ni God, kailangan talagang, kumbaga, sa simpleng salita sa natin, para mapatunayan natin na, kasi lahat namang pinili ni God, tatawagin talaga niya, di po ba? So, para mapatunayan ni Abraham, hindi to God, but to Satan, na he is really worthy and he is really the right person. Kailangan niya pong gawin yung symbolic offering. Kung saan, yun nga, it is to represent the formation, the growth, dove on the formation, ram in the growth stage, and heifer in the completion stage of the growing period. Kaya, 3 po yung sacrifice na inas ni God, na i-offer ni Abraham. Symbolic offering po. And which, ito po yung completion of the cosmos. Ito yung pong, how we would say it. Ito po yung recreation of the, pagka na-realize po niya itong lahat, he would be able to reach the completion stage for the recreation of the cosmos. Yun. So, why did Abraham place these three sacrifices in one altar? Ang sagot po, it is because Abraham now is in the position of Adam, was supposed to restore all at once. So, siya yung panibagong Adam. And the long providence which God had conducted through the three providential generations of Adam, which represented formation, Noah, which is represented the growth in Abraham in the completion stage. So, siya po ngayon ang nasa posisyon of ng panibagong Adam po. So, kaya kailangan pong ilagay niya ito sa isang altar. This is to restore all those positions of Adam, Noah, and Abraham himself generations to uh, ano ba yun? I was lost. Para ma-restore niya lahat all at once. Yung lahat ng mga posesyon ng tatlong tao ito including himself. So, yun. So, in his symbolic offering, Abraham did not cut the dove in two, as he should have. And the birds of prey came down and defiled the sacrifices. Alam naman natin na in offering the three symbolic offerings, he was asked also not only to be offered in one altar, but he also had to cut all this into halves. And then, pag-alaman din natin na it was not the the dove, which is the smallest among them. Kung sino po yung maliit, siya po yung hindi niya na hati. So, not dividing it meant that he what had not been wrested from Satan's position. This mistake had the effect of acknowledging Satan's claim of position over the sacrifices. So, kung from the humanistic point of view, sobrang maliit lang, no? Sobrang, kung sa atin lang, pwede na natin, oh, okay na yon. But in God's point of view, it has a great and tremendous, what's this? Parang mayroon po siyang kakulangan na nagawa of. He has defiled this one, this sacrifices to. Kumbaga, nagkaroon ng chance sa Satan to accuse through the birds of prey which came, no? And during the offering. Nakatulugan ni Abraham to eh. So, yun. So, the reason the offering had to, pag-alaman natin what are the reasons why the offering had to be divided. Una, this is to restore the situation of Adam's family in which Cain and Abel were divided into a representative of good and a representative of evil. Alam naman natin bakit kailangan pong may Cain at saka Abel, may representative. Si Cain po representing the evil side. This is due to the adulterous act Eve has done with the archangel. And then, at saka yung motivation niya. Ito yung bakit kailangan i-separate. And then si Abel naman, we knew that Eve has committed two adulterous act, no? One from the archangel and one in the with his supposedly betrothed partner, which is Adam. Pero yung motivation ng dalawang act na ito ay magkaiba. That determines the good and evil. So, yung unang motivation niya, at saka yung unang anak niya represented the first motivation of having a relationship with the archangel. However, yung second son niya also had represented his motivation of uniting or having a relationship with his supposedly betrothed husband, Adam. So, ito yung kailangan pong i-restore ng pagdi-divide ng dalawang mga symbolic offering na yun. So, second reason is to restore the situation of having divided good from evil during the 40 days of Noah's flood. Ito din po, pangalawang reason is yung kailangan nilang i-divide yung good and evil na kumbaga na nakapasok during the 30 days of the flood judgment. That is, hindi naman literally doon mismo, but this is after Ham having a feeling of shame after he had saw his first son, saw his father naked, while Noah was drunk. So another reason bakit kailangan i-divide ang symbolic offering ni Abraham is to make the symbolic condition to separate a realm of good sovereignty out of the universe ruled by Satan. Alam naman natin na right after um, Eve formed an illicit relationship with the archangel, parang automatic outright lahat ng nangyayari, lahat ng ang nag-dominate na si Satan ruled the universe. So, kailangan po talagang ma-separate ang realm ng good sovereignty mula doon sa, kumbaga, at back then, kasalukuyan nilang situation, has been ruled by Satan. So, the fourth reason why the offering has to be divided is that to make the condition to sanctify the offering by draining out the blood of death which had entered fallen humanity when they were bound in blood ties to Satan. Alam din naman natin na right there and then when Eve has formed a relationship with um, the archangel, nagkaroon na tayo ng blood ties with Satan. So, for it to be separated completely and drained out, symbolically, this blood of death which we have inherited from the adultery of Satan should be drained out completely. So, kaya yun yung kailangang dapat ginawa or mangyari o nagawa ni Abraham. Kaya kailangan niyang
Volume, please.
Kaya kailangan niyang, sorry, thank you. Kailangan niyang i-half ang lahat ng kanyang symbolic offering. So, through this failure, because alam naman natin na nag-fail po si Abraham in dividing the dove, through this failure, the symbolic offering, all the conditions God intended to restore through it were lost. So, kahit isa na lang yung hindi pa na-cut or na-divide ni Abraham, lahat yung sacrifices na yun ay, again, naiwala niya, nag-fail naman na naman. So, as a consequence, actually, later on, kasi nga, alam naman din natin na Abraham is the third attempt of God's work to restore what has been lost in the garden of Eden. His original idea has been lost. So at this time, he could no longer afford to prolong this one more time, but rather he has given another chance to Abraham to offer Isaac instead, diba? So, as a consequence, Abraham's descendants had to suffer oppression and slavery for 400 years in the land of Egypt, and the providence centered in him was prolonged through the three generations of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, after Abraham failed in the symbolic offering, God gave him another chance and commanded him to sacrifice his only son, Isaac, as a burnt offering. So, pero dapat nating malaman, mga brothers and sisters, that very simple act of not doing what has been asked by God has made his descendants to suffer oppression and slavery in the land which is not theirs, which is the land of Egypt. Yun, ganun katindi po yung consequence upon not dividing the symbolic offering, which is yung pinaka-last, which is the dove. So now we are going to know, paano nga ba to? So, ngayon, titingnan natin, why did God work with Abraham again? Bakit nga ba? Ano bang reason why God has to work with Abraham's family again? First, the number 3 represents completion. You have to know this, and I think we all have understood this. And I hope that we can bear this one in our hearts, no? Kasi this is something to do with our life of faith. So since the providence to lay the foundation for the Messiah in Abraham's family was the third dispensation, God's principle required that it could conclude this time. So, nasabi ko na earlier na since Abraham is the third attempt, God's third attempt of restoring what was lost in the Garden of Eden, that was his original ideal of creation. And that God, we alam din natin na God is a God of number. And then, number three. So this time he could no longer sorry this time he could no longer afford that this dispensation would not conclude. And kaya binigyan niya si Abraham na another chance. So this was really God's principle required that this Abraham's family as the third dispensation would have to make this condition or this providence of restoration to finally come to a conclusion. So, di na siya pwedeng i-extend pa one more time. So, yun. Ay, sorry. So, another reason why God could really has given chance to or could still work in Abraham's family is that Satan had attacked both Adam and his son Cain, defiling the family over the course of 2 generations. So, hence, according to the principle of continuity, God could work to take back Abraham and his son Isaac over the course of 2 generations as well. So, si Satan kasi, nauna na eh. Kumbaga, nauna nang mag-strike. O, nakauna ng, how to Bisaya naman. Nauna nang kumbaga, mas nauna na siyang mag-strike to God. So this time, of course, God could take that back. That the, yung kanyang pagtatrabaho, yung weight niya, kumbaga, siya naman ngayon ang kung sa atin pa to boomerang. He could have actually Satan could no longer accuse him because of the 2 strikes Satan has done ahead of him. So kailangan na talaga then it is principle, it is required na God has to could really work to take back uh, for his side naman. Obvious, alam naman natin na si Abraham yun at saka yung anak na si Isaac. So, yan yung reason bakit kailangan, pwedeng bakit God could work with Abraham's family again. So, another reason is that, pangatong reason pala is even though Abraham failed in the division by dividing the dove, God could raise him up and give him another chance to make an offering based on the accumulated merit of Abel and Noah's faithful hearts. Kaya here, kung titingnan natin, it is very important that we could also reflect, brothers and sisters, that our actions or innocent figures action or offering, sincere of offering, lalo na pagka yung loyal heart and yung zealous heart in doing or fulfilling the responsibility really counts a lot as well. Because to me, lahat ng mga parehong mabuti at saka masasamang gawain ng tao ay hindi makakalimutan ni Heavenly Parents. So in here, dahil doon po sa faithful hearts ni Abel at saka ni Noah in fulfilling their responsibility by offering, laying the foundation of faith actually, doon din nakatungtong or yeah, ito yung tinutungtungan or ito yung foundation kung saan Abraham has been standing on. Kaya it's very important that kung i-apply natin sa sariling buhay natin, our acts for the day is really very crucial. It may not be counted, it might maybe not be recognized by by anyone around us. However, hindi po ito nakakalimutan ni Heavenly Parents. Thus, because of those acts that we may fulfill, na our next generation has to enjoy the merit of the age. So this is the same thing with what Abraham has been enjoying, the merits of faithful hearts of both two central figures, which is Abel and Noah, back on their respective times. So yun yung pangatlong reason why God could still work with Abraham's family. So, Abraham put forth his hand and took the knife to slay Isaac. Sin yung nung ano na siya, in his time na, after he failed in the first as in symbolic offering, because he was asked by God to offer his son Isaac as a burnt offering, right? So dito, actually ito, si Isaac at saka si Abraham traveled to the mountain, to the offering mountain, which is Mount Moriah. And then, um, while they were walking, actually, Isaac back then is already big and very, very aware that he didn't have any um, animal for the offering. So he was even asking, where is our offering? But Abraham's response is that, yeah, God will provide the offering. So, even to the point of Isaac being tied and offered there, and Abraham is about to kill it as an offering, as a burnt offering. Um, Back then, the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God." So, dito na ipatunayan din ni Abraham, not only to God but also to Satan, of his zealous heart, of his fear to God, that he doesn't never hesitate to fulfill what really God or carry out what God wills him to do. So because of that, the angel of the Lord called to him na not to ever lay his hand to his son Isaac. So, eto yan. So, amazing, no?
5 minutes.
5 minutes na lang. So, so Abraham still to do God's will and his resolute actions carried out with absolute faith, absolute obedience and loyalty lifted him up to the position of already having killed Isaac. Therefore, he completely separated Satan from Isaac. So, the position of having killed Isaac separated Isaac from Satan. Thus, manifested Abraham's zeal and to God through his actions. Yan. So, because Abraham succeeded in his offering of Isaac, the providence to restore in Abraham's family could be carried out by Isaac. So, being Isaac as an offering, the providence of restoration in Abraham's family uh, through Isaac was laid. And yung foundation of faith na ilagay na po. Yun. So, before Isaac's two sons Esau and Jacob could make the substantial offering, Jacob first had to fulfill the indemnity condition to restore the position of Abel. Kasi nanalay na yung foundation of faith. So, ang anak ni Isaac naman na si Jacob at saka si Esau had to lay the foundation of substance. So, first, in the fight to restore the birthright of the son on the individual level, Jacob cleverly obtained it from Esau in exchange for some bread and pottage of lentil. Alam naman natin ang story nito. So, Jacob has to uh, restore the birthright on the individual level. However, he successfully do it through some bread and pottage of lentils. Pero hindi pa yun natatapos because Jacob has to restore the birthright on the family level. This was done in 21 years in the land of Haran in his uncle Laban. So Jacob went to Haran, which represented the satanic world. After suffering through 21 years of drudgery, he restored the birthright by gaining family and wealth as his due inheritance. And then, of course, Jacob also has triumphed in wrestling with an angel at the ford of Jabbok, thereby restoring dominion over the angel in a substantial struggle. This way, Jacob restored through indemnity the position of Abel on the uh, dominion over the angels on the third on dominion over the angels. This is the third blessing. So Jacob restored through indemnity the position of Abel through these three victories that he had gained. So Esau and Jacob were born as twins. Jacob was Esau's younger brother. However, Rebekah helped Jacob because she had received a revelation. Revelation. Rebekah wanted the younger brother Jacob to stand in the position of the first son. By uniting with his older brother Esau, Jacob became the initiator of the model course for subjugating Satan. So dahil doon sa nagawa ni Jacob, a victory that Jacob has done, he actually had initiated ng course ng lahat ng magiging central figure. So, however, Jacob tricked Esau twice in order to take Esau's right of the first son with the lentil and pottage and his father's blessing. And this is not a path of principle. Thus, this became a condition for Satan's accusation and led to Jacob's 21 years suffering in Haran and fight with the angel. So, kaya kailangan niyang pumunta doon because hindi naman maganda yung kanyang pagkakuha ng birthright. So, if Jacob wanted to inherit the right of the first son, he should have served his brother with sincere heart. So, he would eventually say, yes, you are better than me in all aspects. So, you should be the first son. Had Jacob brought his older brother into voluntary submission this way, such an arduous course of indemnity would have been unnecessary. So, ngayon, establishment naman ng foundation of substance. Paano ba ito nangyayari? Isaac's son Esau and Jacob had to be placed in the divided positions of Cain and Abel, respectively. They were responsible to fulfill the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature and lay the foundation of substance. By restoring dominion over the angel through his victorious fight in the ford of Jabbok, he received the name Israel, laying the groundwork upon which the chosen people would be established. So, yun. Dito talaga, in the laying the foundation of substance, kailangan mag-unite si Esau to Jacob. So, when Esau opened his arms and affectionately welcomed Jacob as he returned to Canaan, they fulfilled the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature. So, alam naman natin ano pa ito nangyari, ano? So, Esau affectionately opened his arm for his younger brother Jacob. So the victory restored through indemnity horizontally in one family the long vertical course of history in which God had been working to restore the foundation of substance. Ayun. So, at last, the foundation of the Messiah, the family foundation was established in Isaac's family. And then, however, by Abraham's time, fallen people had already built up satanic nations which could easily overpower Abraham's family. Hence, the Messiah could not have safely come on that foundation. Yeah, it's very sad, no? Since Jacob's family entered Egypt, centering on Joseph, and went through the 400 years of indemnity, trying to build the national foundation for the Messiah. So, syempre, national foundation na po yung nilay ni Satan. So, kailangan din po nilang makalay ng national foundation for the Messiah to come. Yun. Pero yun, pumunta muna sila. Kailangan nilang mag-stay doon. Pumunta sa lupa na hindi kanila. So, God regarded Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the same person with respect to his will, even though they were three different individuals. So, accordingly, Jacob's success meant Isaac's success, and Isaac's success meant Abraham's success. Therefore, the providence of restoration centering on Abraham though it was extended to Isaac and Jacob, came to be regarded in the sight of God as having been accomplished in Abraham's own generation without any prolongation. Isn't it amazing, brothers and sisters? Ang galing. So the verse, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, as is being expressed or stated in Exodus chapter 3, verse 6, indicates that although there were three generations, God regarded as one generation these ancestors who collectively accomplished His will. So, it is in Abraham's time, kahit na magkaiba silang individual, pero they were regarded as one person, thus accomplishing the providence in Abraham's generation, the providence of restoration in Abraham's family. So, by receiving the name Israel, which he acquired when he won over the uh, angel in the ford of Jabbok, Jacob laid the groundwork upon which the chosen people would be established, and fulfilling the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature when Esau embraced his younger brother Jacob, he victoriously completed the moral course to subjugate Satan. Oh, so amazing. So Moses, Jesus, and even the people of Israel would walk this course after the pattern set by Jacob. Because of those victories that Abraham's family Jacob uh, through Jacob's course, and ang lahat ng mga central figure na mapipili or napipili ni God will have to walk the same course as that set by Jacob. So there are what are the lessons that we should take away from Abraham's course? First, Abraham's course demonstrates that God's predestination concerning the manner in which his will is fulfilled is conditional. Why? It can become conditional. Even God has completely predestined. I mean, his will, the realization of his will is absolute. However, it becomes conditional because of the fulfillment of man's individual responsibility. How does we, as human beings, would carry it out? Understanding, knowing the will of God. So, dapat, malaki po yung contribution natin. Kaya nagiging conditional po yun. However, Abraham's course demonstrated it was demonstrated in the story of Abraham's family. Second lesson that we have to take away from Abraham's family is that Abraham's course shows us that when human beings fail to complete the responsibility, the fulfillment of God's will is always delayed, and its restoration requires fulfillment of greater indemnity condition. So, tayo, having had known the principle, we should always make ourselves very reminded of na any ayuta or minor mistake that we might be able to do has its own, may kaakibat po talagang indemnity po ito. So, saka kung halimbawa hindi ito magawa, ang will ni God, hindi naman ito mag-stop. However, madidelay po talaga ng kaunti. Hindi ng kaunti, ng malaki pa nga eh. So, it is very necessary that uh, we should be able to fulfill our responsibility. Para, una, syempre hindi na tayo mag-indemnity at saka para hindi na po madidelay ang Providence of Restoration. Another thing that we should learn from Abraham's family is that Abraham's cutting the sacrifices into two provides a lesson that each of us must also divide our own self as an offering to separate good from evil. Paano ba ito natin titingnan if sa ating life of faith, brothers and sisters? It would be upon knowing the principle, upon knowing the right way or path, on how are we going to separate ourselves from the old self, which has been dominated by Satan for hundreds or for thousands of years, representing our ancestors, and maybe for a number of years, having existed in this physical earth. We should be able to separate. We should paano may sabihin? You should know how to chastise or discipline ourselves in order for us to be worthy, to be justified as one of those people whom God has chosen to become part of this particular undertaking in the present era in the second advent of the Messiah. So, yun. Kailangan po natin itong maintindihan at malaman um, para natin ma-remind ang sarili natin na, and anything that we have to undertake, we should always be conscious on how are we going to separate or distinguish good from evil. So, yan. Ito po yung mga lessons na ating dapat maalala parati. So I think this is the end of my lecture. Thank you so much, my dearest brothers and sisters, for bearing with me. Thank you.
You let us give her a big hand. Okay po. So, we have finished the 3 lecturers. Mr. Herwin, Kalinawan, nawala ulit. Si Ma'am Jenny Villasan. Sorry for the technical problem. Mahina ang internet. And Mrs. Sylvia de Apera. So what have we learned? We have learned the providence of restoration under the leadership of Moses and the providence of restoration in Abraham's family and the root of sin. So as your moderator, supposedly, as we are UPTA, we should be abreast in the current situation. So let us be more, it's nice that you have presented it well. So, but we did our best to do our objective, and you don't include it in your lecture. So, but maybe next time, let's make it a habit to include it. Okay. And then one more thing is that Mrs. Relina Dolendo is now here. Good evening, ma'am. And your task is to be give supplemental True Father's words for these three topics that I have mentioned, if it's okay with you. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Hindi ko po, hindi ko po nakita na may task pala ako. Sorry po. Hindi ko po nakita doon.
Okay.
Sorry po, hindi ko po nakita na may task pala ako. Supplement other for mga presentation ko, minsan meron akong nilalagay. Parang, pwede po ako 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Kasi minsan meron ako nilalagay na father's course sa,
Okay po.
sa ano po, sa mga...
So, sige po, ano natin, yung, kuya, ano po ang, you'll go 5 more minutes. So, it's 9:04, I give you 9:10. It's 9:04 in my clock, so 9:10.
Kasi minsan naglalagay po.
Okay po, thank you. So ano pa po ang learnings natin dito as to become a good lecturer?
Ano po yung kay Miss Villasan? Anong chapter po?
Ano po, the root of sin. The root of sin po.
Root of sin?
Chapter 2, section 1.
Ano pa po ang learnings natin dito? Kuya, yung 30 minutes, Kuya Julius, is hindi po kaya yung sa topic ni Ma'am Sylvia at saka ni Kuya Erwin. Another thing, pagka medyo time pressured, medyo conscious, lahat ng tao. Kahit ako siguro mako-conscious ako doon. So, yung parang expressive. So, paano natin yung gagawa ng paraan na, kasi ang tendency, pag sinabing 5 minutes, binamadali nila yung essence, nagsisira sila sa ano nila. Hindi naman to siguro.
Nawala sa focus.
Oo, nawala sa focus. Another thing, hindi naman tayo...
Hindi niya ma-express lahat.
Hindi naman tayo parang merong competition. But to give a substantial and understandable lecture. Kasi medyo mahirap ang topics nila. Or mahirap din talaga naman ang divine principle if you will introduce it for the first time, right? So, yun po ang nakita natin. Kasi nag-practice tayo, sinubukan natin mag-timer. So, yung po 30 minutes na sinabi natin na tatlo. Another thing, medyo as we grow, as I've mentioned, pagka mas na tayo, as we become witty, medyo yung attention span natin umisi. So, yung kung tatlo na paulit-ulit natin, paano natin gagawan na paraan na it will be yung, kasi kailangan din natin makuha yung attention ng ating mga audience. So, tayo pa rin yung audience. So, dapat when you speak, kung nagle-lecture po kayo, actual audience, si Ma'am Sylvia, since the beginning I saw you, yung pa rin yung habit na nag-excuse ka. I'm sorry po, ganito. You don't have to be excused because that is who you are. That is your uniqueness. So, kung kami po ang... MA, mama. Kung kami po yung kaharap mo, isipin mo, kami rin yung inyong audience. Okay? So, tatak mo yon. Kung hindi mo, it's a habit. Sabi mo nga, all of us are learning this to improve our personality, our habit. Kung hindi mo matatanggal yung habit mo na ganun, then that's you. Tatak mo yun. Okay? So, yung po
Signature.
kuya ang napansin ko regarding the time. Kasi sabi mo, di ba, pwedeng 4 hanggang 3 ang mag-present. Tapos, tigta 30 minutes. Nung pinag-present ako ni Kuya Herwin dun sa kabila, di ba tatlong section lang yun sa akin, pinag-break, binibigyan nila ng break may 5 minutes. Kasi to break the monotony, tapos para mag-iba naman yung nila, attention. So siguro parang actual na rin natin to kung wala pa tayong ibang le-lecturean, yun tayo. Yun lang po yung napansin ko, kaya sinabi kong tatimeran ko sila. Tapos yung naging gratis. So Sir Herwin, what can you say? Tama ba yung observation ko o mali?
Tama naman to. Mahirap talaga mag-lecture for short time regarding sa part 2 ng BP kasi it talks about history. Sa part 1 kasi mabilis lang. Kaya nga medyo So, bagay we are on but kahit we are on practicing din. Kailangan i-practice. But ang pinakamatagal regarding sa I think 1 hour yun ang pinakamatagal. Minimum at least 40 minutes for me regarding sa history. 30 minutes it's really hard.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard mong hapulin. So, I think you both of you umabot kayo ng 40 minutes. Kaya lang po ang natin is alalahanin natin, audience natin. Lalo na ngayon, mga erratic ang mga bata, millennials sila. 20 minutes is their attention span. So kung dire-diretso natin yun, baka mabulunan sila. Information purging or information overload. Kaya kailangan po natin. So I'll cut it for a while. So okay na po kayo. It's 9:10, Ate Relina. I'll give you 15 minutes to 20 minutes so we can discuss on the last hour. 9:30. Thank you po. So Ate Relina will give some True Father supplemental.
Wala po ako na-include. Alam ko meron. I was hoping meron. Hindi pala siya sa mga Sorry po, wala ako na-include. Kala ko meron. Pero sa ibang siya, sa ibang wala ako sa chapter 2, section 1, wala. So, wala pa ako na-include.
Sorry.
Tapos sa naman, sa Abraham, diba? Din akong na-include. Hanggang Noah meron ako, pero wala ako sa Right, so Moises, wala ako eh. Sorry po. Wala akong nakita.
Si Sir Randy at saka si Kuya Julius, magsusulat ka. Next time, I will do my homework every day. I will do my homework. Di ba nung kami nung bata, ganun eh. Para gumanda yung handwriting. Awa ng Diyos, hindi gumanda handwriting ko. Kaya ako naging doktor. Okay. Well, anyways, we are here to learn. So, medyo dapat basa-basa tayo ng ating mga assignment. So, natakot nga rin ako kanina. Ako pala yung moderator. So, it's 9:11 now. So, wala na po si Ma'am Marlene Brownout sa kanila. Tapos si Ma'am Jean is sa kanila ay mahina ang internet. So, I think it's na po ang susunod natin. Kasi gandun lang yung program. Wala po si Ma'am Hida, absent, nasa hospital pa raw. So,
Recovering naman po siya na po.
Recovering na. That's good. Sige, update. So, kumusta sa HQ, Sir Herwin? Kumusta yung mga batang nasa facilities?
Hindi na kami lumalabas sa room namin.
Paano kayo kumakain?
Pinadagdagan ba sila?
Hindi pumapunta pa rin kami sa kitchen, pero
Kanya-kanya, wala. Hindi sabay-sabay,
dati,
Sino
Pero
nag-provide
ano
ng
sila?
food? Nag-food
Doon
nyo?
sila sa facilitation. Yes, kaya?
yung food nyo na ano, kasi hindi kayo pwedeng lumabas, di ba? Yung government ba
may ano po
nag-provide ng...
kami, may errands po kami sa labas.
Tapos,
Ah,
tinanong ko na yan eh, sabi ni Miss Manina, si Surgeon daw. Si Surgeon daw na, isang tao daw ni Surgeon, yung NCR director po, yung nagma-market, plus yung food po na bigay ng government. So, nagpakita siya kanina ng isang picture, si Miss Manina na yung binigay ng government na food packs.
good.
So, nagbigay sila ng food packs?
May mga galing, di ba saan galing yun? But I think from the
Ano yan, sa barangay yan eh.
UC.
Kasi, ang responsible niyan, firstly yung barangay. Dito sa amin, meron ganun din eh.
Kung nag-positive si
Abon.
positive si Kuya, binigyan din kami ng 2
Yan, ano yan? Ano yan, kuya?
Bulalo noodles.
Bulalo.
Saka Lemon Square. Yun yung natanggap namin. Hindi ko alam, baka may error pang iba, pero ito yung nabinigay sa bawat isa sa amin.
Okay.
Nandun sa ano,
Abon.
Patay ng virus yan eh.
I think good for 1 week lang. Hindi ko 1 week.
Hanggang kailan kayo? Hanggang kailan? May gwardiya sa labas. Hanggang kailan ko pwedeng lumabas?
PSG daw.
Hindi ko na nabilang kung ilang
Presidential Special Security Guard.
Meron sila doon.
pero may ano kami doon, may card kami.
May guard sila. Bawal. Kung gusto kitang padala ng pansit, hindi pwede, no? Kasi may guard, hindi pwede.
At talaga, walang mga delivery sa kanila na kumbaga hindi siya yung lutong bahay, parang walang gana, hindi pwede.
Hindi po, kasi papaalam mo sa guard dahil barangay level to. Pag kumalat sila, sagot nung guard, yung hindi si Kuya Nilo, yung nasa labas. So, yun yung sino ba yun? Si Ma'am si Jessa, minessage na ako. Ano daw ni Sir L.A. at humihingi sila ng advice. Di ba unang kausap ko si Johnson, humingi ng medical certificate. Sabi ko sa kanya, ilan ang meron? 3 or 4 ang positive. Pag nagkaroon pa ng isa dyan, dapat sa barangay kayo. 3 yung option. Magpa-RT-PCR kayo lahat as private. Ang nakuha ko, hindi ko na sinabi, 2.5 pag for 30 and above na person. 2.5 yun, mahal. Sino mag-ano? Tapos yung pag 20 pababa, 2.7. Yun ang pinakamababa ko nang nakita. RT-PCR. Kasi kung mag-antigen daw, uulitin din naman. Yun yata yung ginawa sa inyo nung last Sunday. RT-PCR na ngayon, di ba? Kasi hindi na pwede mag-antigen sa inyo. Tapos, ang second, sabi ko, is barangay. Kailangan i-report sa barangay. Dahil kung nalaman nila na nireferan ako sa doktor, tapos hindi ko nireport, masasanction ako. Kahit wala ako dyan. Dahil, communicable, tapos pandemic tayo. Kaya nung nadagdagan ng isa na meron ng sipon, nag-report na sila. Kaya ngayon, may nag-positive pa ulit. Diba? Na 3. Kaya iniintay pa yung iba. Pag dumami, kaya wala. Nung nagsabi ako na wala nang lalabas, may nagalit sa akin. Bakit ikaw magpapalabas? Yung matigas ang ulo. Dapat hindi palabas. Hindi pwede. Kasi, sige, lahat sila bakunado. Lahat kayo bakunado, diba? Isa lang yata.
Pero isa pa.
Kaya 5 to 7 ang binargain ko. 5 to 7 days. Hindi pa rin pwede, hindi aabot. So, sabi ko, doktor lang naman ako. So, it's your body. Kayo ang masusunod. Katawan nyo pa rin yan. Decision. Totoo naman yan. Di ba, really, na-experience mo yan. We're just doctors. We're just here to assist or to advise. But it's still your body. So, nag-decide sila na nung sinabi ni Kuya L.A. na daw, kailangan magpabarangay. Kaya nasa barangay level na sila. Kasi marami sila. Hindi mo pwedeng padamihin ay mag-positive. Yun ang sitwasyon na nangyari.
Amazing.
So, nung at least, thank God, sila ay vaccinated. Kahit na yung, di ba nagreklamo si Ma'am Irene na unfair naman yung sinabi ni Henry Umaga Diaz na bakit ganon? They are 41, di ba nakakita yung ganito? Hindi naman kasi kakagatin. So, huminto ang ating news sa HQ because they were all vaccinated. Tsaka they reported immediately. Diba? Kaya wala silang masyadong masabi. Hindi na sila masyado sa, uy, yung gantong ganyan. Yun lang po. Yun lang po ang, the way I see it.
Okay, may tatanong ako. How
Yes,
true
po.
na if you have, say for example, sinusitis, you will automatically come out positive?
Hindi naman po, pero lahat na yun,
Ah,
once upper respiratory tract infection, kahit nagilalagnat, di ba meron tayong checklist na sinasagutan, magkaroon ka lang ng isang plus doon na yes, considered as ano pa rin, COVID.
Okay.
So,
Kay Ariel talagang parang talagang nakuha niya yung nung October 2 sa antigen, negative siya, nakapasok siya. Pero October 10, nag-positive na siya. Yung asawa lang niya nakapasok. Tapos, pero daw nung,
Sino?
si Ariel.
engineer Ariel.
Nung 2 and 3 yata, 2, 3, nag-overnight na sila sa HQ. So, yun. Kasi negative pa siya nung 2 Pero yung 3 and 4, dun siya na-infect. Parang lumalabas doon. Kasi nagkaroon na siya nung 10. Nung 10, nag-positive na sa antigen Kaya siya yung trigger niya kung bakit nagpa-RT-PCR siya. And
Si
it
Bea
turns out
din.
na positive.
Alam
Si Bea
kasi
din
ang
sa rapid.
antigen,
Pero sabi niya
Positive.
3 to 4 days na siya na nagsisipon. Yun, 3 to 4 days na siya na nagsisipon. Yun. Kaya sabi ko gano'n. Talagang pag bibilangin mo yung 3 hanggang di pa 5.6, 5.8 days, 5.8 days, nalabas po yung di ba? Nalabas yung symptoms. Pasok siya dun Pasok siya Pasok
kasi ang antigen, pag nakapaligid sa'yo, katulad sa kanila, pag nakapaligid sa kanila, antigen ang pwede nila examine at positive, talaga merong COVID. Pero pag negative, kailangan mag-RT-PCR kasi walang ibig sabihin yun. Kaya ang advice sa akin nung kinontak ng laboratory, doktor din siya kabatch. Sabi niya sa akin, mas mabuti pa RT-PCR, ganun din, doble gastos pa sila. Yun. Kaya po, yung negative na result, katulad ng kinuwento ni LA, di ba? The wife is negative antigen. But si Kuya LA was positive na siya, antigen or RT-PCR. Kaya inulit pa yun sa wife para mag-RT-PCR. Kasi wala ibig sabihin yung pag negative. Pag positive, may ibig sabihin. May COVID ka.
Hindi naman po si Sir LA ang vaccinated, yung wife ang hindi. Diba?
Kaya nga nung nag-usap kami, sabi ko sa kanya, mas mag-ingat tayo na vaccinated, fully vaccinated. Kasi mas malamang tayo hindi na i-infect agad, but we're carrier. Pwede tayong makahawak. Kaya mas mag-iingat tayo. Yun yung nila. Tapos tinanong ko sila, saan ba nang galing po? Sabi ko kay LA. Sabi ni LA, saan po ba kayo nagpupunta? Wala sa grocery at HQ. Sabi naman sa HQ, tinanong ko, saan ba galing yan? Kay LA, di ba siya nauna?
Amazing.
Love, that's true love. Live for the sake of
Sharing is
others.
loving.
Ayan, yan po yung ano natin. So, kailangan kayo, lahat kayo, sabi ko kay Jessa, magpa-araw, ay yung pala si Jessa kasama sa facility. So, kayo, mag-alternate kayo, lalabas kayo, magpapa-araw kayo.
Yung MJ, si MJ na ano natin, na engineer, yung taga Iloilo.
Hindi, yung babae.
Tama sa technical.
Okay.
PR.
So ilan na
Paano
lahat?
pala yung ano? Paano yung, bakit yung result namin, late pa? Tapos yung result ng iba, maaga. Kanina lang.
Ano yung sabi, within 24 hours, meron na? Yung mga may signs and symptoms, siguro binibilisan nila. Pero yung walang signs and symptoms, minsan 7 days pang yan eh. Kahit may signs and symptoms. Swerte nyo na nga, 3 days.
Tulad yung kina-Ate Jessa. Yung ba yun?
Oo, kasi may signs and symptoms. Siya ang madalas kasi yata nakikipag-usap dun sa iba. Kaya, tapos may signs and symptoms na sila.
Lumabas na. Pero kasi exposed
Kasi
Sorry.
siya, medyo maraming halubilo. Kasi daming tao dito. Dito nga lang ako noon, nakatabay lang ako dito. Din ako
Hurry up.
Kasi, tinatimingan. From exposure, at least 5 days bago gagawin yung exam.
Excuse me.
Yes po.
I'm sorry. Hindi. Ang mga
So mga ilan na doc lahat yung naano diyan sa HQ?
9?
Malabas
May 9 na ba?
9 na yan.
Dami na.
Kahapon sa 3 ngayon, di na.
Kung ma-determine pa yung ibang ano noon, yung
Sino ba yung another 4, kuya?
3.
3? Sino po?
Dagdag, si Ate Jessa, si Kuya Sid, si Kuya Tolitz, Rosa.
Oh my God. Ano kay mga anak ko eh. Si Bea yung kaunang naglagnat diyan.
Negative na
Kailangan
siya
hindi-
eh.
kailangan
Nano na
hindi
yata
sila
siya,
masyadong
examine
lumalabas
siya,
eh.
negative na. Yung mga chikiting, mga babies mo dyan, alam ko negative na sila, na-examine sila.
siguro diyan sa loob ng HQ
Thank
hindi
you po, Doki.
hindi nagmamas saka nag-face shield.
Hindi ko yan.
Na, no?
Ngayon lang na.
Sabi ko nga
Hawa-hawa
kahit face mask lang, okay na, tsaka magparang, tsaka walang sabay-sabay kumain, galit-galit
Kasi
muna kayo.
parang public ano na rin yan eh. Kaya dapat
Kami, hindi lang kami nagsasabay ng anak kong kumain. Magkaimo kami table, magkalayo.
Office ko kasi ako lang mag-isa. So, ako lang talaga. Sa baba, meron yung sa baba. Pero ako lang dito. Kaya hindi masyadong exposed sa mga brothers and sisters. Hindi rin ako
Kailangan mo lumabas.
Kaya lang talaga ako dito. Pag kumain, labas.
Kailangan mo rin magpa-araw at magpalabas. Alternate kayo.
Ay, actually,
kasi,
pintuan kasi yung katapat ko, Dok eh. So, fresh air siya. Tapos pag mainit din. Kaya,
araw,
maganda yung-
sun rays.
Good
Ang
job.
kailangan
Yeah,
hindi mainit. Sun rays.
punta doon sa taas sa sa
Roof
tuktok,
deck.
sa roof deck. Ganda doon eh. Early
Parang
morning.
ginawa naman kasi nilang quarantine area dati yun una. Pero wala naman pag 6 hours.
Sino magsasanitize? Kailangan i-sanitize ang buong
May darating daw eh.
magpapadala raw.
Sa pambarangay. Siguro, alam mo kailan.
Fuming yan, di ba, Doc? Yan,
O sanitation. O
Pala.
lilinisan
Ay,
sila. Parating.
Ano bang ginamit kila Sir L.A.?
Bali, saan nakuha yan, in short? Okay. Sabi ni LA, sa HQ. Sabi ni HQ, kay LA.
Hindi mo talaga
Sharing is
malalaman.
loving eh.
Hindi mo talaga malalaman yung invisible yung ano. Iba-ibang makasalamuha. We never know.
Ako nga sinasabi ko sa akin kasi ako palaging lumalabas.
Ako nang
Diba?
hawa sa anak ko eh. Ako kasi ang nag-hospital.
Di ba may gathering ng PCLC yan sa HQ time? Baka yung mga
From outside.
guests,
May mga outside din.
mga guests
Although
noon.
nagmamas naman, may test pero rapid siya. Rapid test. Kaya,
Wala. Pag negative yun, walang ibig sabihin. Yung antigen, rapid test, etc. Wala ibig sabihin pag negative. Pag positive, may ibig sabihin. Kaya kahit magpapas kayo dyan ng negative na pinapakita nila, hindi pa rin dapat kayo kampante. Tsaka yung pong tinutulungan, yung ako na, ang tingin ko, naka-face shield kami, naka-face mask, hindi lang ako naka-level 4. Yung wala akong dalang ballpen noon kasi ugali ko hindi magdala ng ballpen. Kaya natuto ako, nung nagkasakit ako, nagdadala na akong ballpen. Nanghiram ako ng ballpen, may pinapirma sa akin, yung mga records, hawak nila. Dalawa silang nag-abot sa akin. Yung isa positive. Kaya ingat. Kanya-kanyang ballpen, kanya-kanyang mask. Pag maglalabasan kayo, magkita kayo, nakamask kayo, kahit nasa loob lang. Diyan sa HQ. Okay po. So,
Sabi ko nga kasalanan ko din, Doc, kasi parang nag-lower down ako ng dati kasi pag pag galing ako sa labas, magsasanitize ako, di ba? Merong talagang Lysol dun sa labas ng house. Tapos mga 30 minutes to 1 hour pa ako doon, hindi ako pumapasok. Pero later on kasi, hindi ko na nagagawa yun. Yun. So talagang kaya iniisip ko rin, yun, nung nag-lower down ako nung safety precaution.
So, we should be always on guard. At saka kayo, Erwin, mag-gargle ng rock salt lahat para mamatay.
paano yun, Doc? Magasin? Asin?
Warm saline, asin lang, yung rock salt, hindi iodized. Lagyan mo lang yung baso ng asin.
Baka, tawag ko doon
Kaya ang
O kaya
tubig lagyan ng asin.
anong tawag doon? Suob. Kahit
Ganun?
rock salt,
Pwede.
ayun, kahit sa tasa mo lang yan, pag ubos na, pagkakain mo, gasa mo, lagyan mo lang mainit na tubig, tsaka salt. Lahat kayo. Simple lang yun, pero makakatulong yun. Well, okay, it's 9:30. Back to, tapos na tayo unwind. Back to our lesson. Yes, Sir Randy. You're there? Sir Randy, are you there? PH Randy.
Hello po. Magandang gabi. Magandang gabi, bayan.
Hey, sir.
Actually, kanina ko pa binubuksan yung laptop ko kaso lang hindi yata nakikaayon sa panahon. Kasi yung mga gusto ko sana i-present yung lalo na sa chapter 2, yung mga words ni Father. Kaso lang hindi siya nag-open Nakatatlong beses na akong restart mula kanina. Pero ayaw pa rin. So anyway, sa mga nag-lecture, kumbaga hindi naman okay lang na yung traditional way of presentation na kung ano nandoon yun yung ifa-follow. Pero kaya nga nang sinabi ni Doc V na i-ayon natin sa panahon ngayon. Kaya dapat attune din tayo kung ano yung mga nangyari sa paligid natin para sa ganun we can connect. Like for example, yung mga sa history, sa anong katulad ng mga nangyari in the past sa panahon natin ngayon. 'Di ba? Yung nakikita natin. Ang isang pinakaano doon yung Noah's, yung napanood ko na Noah's Ark na yung kalaban ni Bruce Almighty, si Ivan Almighty. Na yung ark is an act of random kindness. Na maging kind ka lang sa tao, you can save the whole world. So kumbaga, what I'm saying is how we will, kasi ang truth, ang expression of truth is it goes with the time, right? Hindi man nagbabago yung truth, ngunit yung expression niya depende dun sa panahon ng mga tao na nakikinig. And it's really important that we have to really we have to always be attuned into that na yung kaya nga si Father, di ba? Yung speech niya nung 1960s, parehas pa rin naman yung speech niya nung 2000. Pero ano lang pagkaiba? Yung pagka-express nun. Pagka-express niya na it will let the people understand how valuable it is to live the way na yung sinasabi niya sa atin how we should live our life. Kaya nga yung era, yung sinasabi na era before heaven and then era after heaven, okay? Na how much we wanted to leave all the baggages that we have. And then pagpunta natin ng era after the coming of heaven, dapat wala ng baggages. Okay? Anong meron na? We should be likened to a high noon. Yung alas 12 na wala nang shadow, hindi mo na tinitingnan yung shadow, ngunit tinitingnan mo na lang how you will move forward. Di ba pag alas 12 na, di ba? Nagmamadali ka na pumasok kasi mainit na. Diba? Pero pag kayong bago pa mag alas 12, conscious ka pa, ay, andito pa yung shadow ko, nakikita mo pa yung shadow. So what I'm saying is, we should express the truth. I-jive natin din sa tao. Nang sa ganun, pero hindi naman natin babaguhin yung pinaka main thought of the truth. Ang inaano lang natin yung way it is being expressed. Nang sa ganun, people can adapt in the era kung saan man yung era na yon. Okay? Kaya nga yun yung naging problem sa Bible eh. Kasi after 2,000 years, hindi na siya nagkaroon ng new expression. It's the same na lang. Kung ano expression noon, yun na lang yung hanggang sa ngayon. Kaya hindi siya ganun ka click sa tao ngayon ang Bible. Kaya kung wala kang faith, hindi ka talaga magkano sa Bible. Hindi ka mahila towards the Bible. So ano bang ginawa ni Father? It is the expression. Okay? Expression na kung sino yung mga taong nasa harapan niya, kung anong level ng mga nasa harapan niya, doon niya na-express yung word ni God. Doon niya na-express yung divine principle. Kaya nga even in North Korea nung nagpunta siya, even in Russia nung nagpunta siya ng Russia. Diba? Ano sinabi niya? It's God's viewpoint. Bakit? Kasi during that time, Russia is in the midst of transformation of the government. Yun yung nagkaroon ng proposal si Mikhail Gorbachev for the perestroika policy na i-transform yung USSR into Russia na wherein they can allow some areas of communism to become to be open for a public event relating with other democratic countries. And yun din ang ginamit ni Father when he went to North Korea. The expression of anti-communism based on kung anong interest ng mga tao during that time. Nang sa ganon, magkaroon ng openness at magkaroon ng transformation dun sa mga taong nakikinig. And that is how true Father present the divine principle. It is expressing based on the people who are in front of him. So ganun din tayo. Okay? Dapat as a sinasabi nating educator, as a mouthpiece of God, dapat alam natin kung kailan natin gamitin yung traditional way of approach, and then kailangan natin bibigyan ng new expression nang sa ganun we can really bring the people. Okay? We can bridge the people from satanic world bridging towards a new world. Kasi 'di ba sabi nga natin 'di ba, what's the mission of the new truth? It is bringing fallen people to the new world, to a new world, a new environment. Adyo po ba? Yan. Kaya we have to also habang nagbabasa tayo ng Father's words, we needed also to check kung ano yung paligid natin. Ano yung scenario sa paligid natin. Kasi doon natin maano kumbaga doon natin makakatch na relate sila. Na naintindihan nila kung ano yung sinasabi natin. At hindi lang 'yon, maintindihan nila na kailangan ko nang baguhin ang sarili ko nang sa ganon I can start a new beginning and I can be different from others. So, total I can say naman na you are already seasoned lecturers kasi you've been giving lecture not for a month lang but it is more than a year already. Okay? So ibig sabihin, you can now start yung sinasabi ni Doc Vina, you can create your own signature as a lecturer. You can now create your own taste. You can now create your own identity as a mouthpiece of God and as an educator. Kaya nga 'di ba napansin niyo doon sa iba't ibang audience natin during the 21 days. Nag-adjust na kayo kung sino yung mga nasa harapan ninyo. So ibig sabihin you can now identify what is kung saan mo magkamit yung common na kahit anong level yung nasa harapan mo, you can still present the same thing. Okay? Kaya importante na total naka-record naman halos lahat yung mga pwede yung balik-balikan yun sa YouTube. And then tingnan nyo, ano yung mga ano ba yung dapat ayusin ko dito para sa ganun. It will become a general audience. Okay? Yun nga yung kagandahan ngayon kasi unlike before na walang mga kailangan cassette tape lang talaga ang ginagamit na pagre-record. Okay. Kaya ako dati dami-dami ko mga cassette tape na naipon. Tapos yun yung paulit-ulit ko pinapakinggan. Ganito. Ganito yung pag-present. Tapos ito yung sa panahon ngayon, ito yung nababagay para sa ganun ma-express natin ng ganito. Na pagkaharap mo mga lawyers, pwede mong gamitin yung law law during the time of Moses. Anong kaibahan sa law ngayon? Meron ng humanistic touch yung law ngayon. Okay? Unlike before na kung pinatay yung kapatid ko, papatay din ako. Na hindi na tinitingnan kung nasaktan ba yung tao, hindi. Basta yun yung dapat mangyari. Unlike ngayon, di ba, meron na tayong humanistic touch, meron na tayong emotional touch in every situation that we have na. Pwede naman nating patawarin So pwede mong ngayon, pwede mong i-drive sila centering on that to really understand how is the progress of the truth to be accepted in the era kung saan siya dinedeliver. Adyo po? Does it make sense po? And kaya it's really important na kaya kailangan nating makaharap lahat ng level ng tao para makita natin yung authority ng divine principle in all aspect of knowledge. Kasi divine principle it can be used in any form of knowledge that we have. Parang natutuwa nga ako nung nasa Visayas ako kasi yun nga in-expose ako sa University of Visayas sa College of Law, in-invite ako doon na mag-present ng principle. So doon ko nakita. Although tinanong ako na halos wala ako masagot doon sa mga tanong nila. Pero ang naano ko doon is may na-realize ko na ganun pala dapat. Ang divine principle is hindi yung kung paano nila mai-connect yung profession nila and how they can apply the principle itself to become part of their profession. Kaya nung sa Northern Samar naman ako, yung Vice President for Academic Affairs dun sa University of Northern Philippines, hindi pala UNP. Sa Samar mismo, yung university doon, in-expose niya ako sa engineering, sa College of Education, Technology, tapos ang pinakahuli sa President. Ang pinag-usapan namin is ang pinapresent niya sa akin is yung common issues na pwedeng mangyari sa mga universities. And yun yung value system na embodiment of value system. So mga ganun na okay lang naman na hindi naman natin kailangan sagutin lahat ng tanong. Pero yun nga, pinakamaganda is we can lead them towards a better understanding of their question to be connected towards the principle of God and true parents. And that is how the new truth is being expressed in different era and different time. Hindi man different era yung gagamitin natin yan, but different expertise of people in our community. Kasi yan yung imimit natin eh. Yan yung educate natin. Kaya nga tayo, hindi na yung siguro hiramin ko yung inaano ni Ate Kino na hindi dapat tayo hindi tayo pang tawag nun? Pang squatter. But we should elevate the people from squatter to become a professional people. Hindi yung squatter yan, dyan tayo marami makuha. Hindi ganun dapat ang mindset natin. I-elevate natin ang standard ng living ng mga tao sa squatter to become a better person. Ma-realize na how important ang responsibility so that they will not just be waiting for what is coming, what is being given to them. Kasi di ba ganun ang situation sa mga squatters? Although nagsisikap sila, pero for themselves lang. And at the same time, mas marami pa rin yung inaantay nila yung isusupport sa kanila. So we should bring them out from that kind of concept and then bring them to a better concept of yung tinatawag nating sharing, living for the sake of others. Actually, paborito tayo ni Doc V yun eh. Yung universal, Doc? Co-prosperity.
Interdependence.
Hello,
Mutual
Doc?
prosperity.
Interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values. Diba? Pagka may natin yun, may from the community that they were used to, we can share them that kind of vision, that kind of heart set and mindset. Diba? We can elevate them. Hindi na lang sila yung umaasa na nag-aantay. Ngunit they can now stand on their own. Kaya nga hindi yung targetin natin na sa sa squatter tayo. Ang targetin natin is gawin natin magandang squatter. I-elevate natin ang standard ng squatter. So yun yung natin as an educator or as a mouthpiece. Ang every time na mag-lecture tayo, ang target natin is mapaganda ko ang buhay ng tao na to. I will bring them to a better. Yung laging nasa mission ng New Expression of Truth sa introduction, 'di ba? Bringing from old world to a new world. Unity of yung three faculties, okay? Philosophy, religion, and 'di ba? And then bring them into unity. Let them unite together. Nang sa ganun, from fallen environment to a higher standard or higher environment that they have. So we should always carry that. That should be the focal point of our heart and our mind in giving the divine principle to brothers and sisters. Nang sa ganun, we can make use the divine principle in different field of expertise. Mapa-science man yan, mapa-religion man yan, mapa-computer man yan. Kasi kung titignan natin, lahat naman it follows the rule of unity of positive and negative, give and take, the flow of give and take action. Diba? Yun pa rin yung pinaka-basic. Even in medicine, diba, Doc? Ang pinaka-basic is yung give and take action pa rin. Yung interaction of two entities na yun yung positive and negative within the cell na nag-expand from the cell to the system, sa organ, and even to the whole body. So yun, brothers and sisters, I would like to start to unlock sa atin ngayon na hindi yung ganun lang na kung ano yung field ng ano hanggang dun lang yung ibibigay natin. But ang ano natin is we will bring them out from the traditional concept that they have, and then bring them to understand the new concept of becoming one with God. And from that, kahit religious person ang kausap mo, hindi na kayo magdedebate sa Bible. Ngunit pag-usapan na lang ninyo ano bang pwede nating gawin so that we can work on together. Aju? So that's one thing that I would like to let everybody start to think of ngayon, that we are now nasanay na tayo sa kumbaga ando doon na yung pinaka-core ng principle. Ang kailangan na lang natin is how we will express it in different way of expressing so that we can bring the people to be connected to God and have a deeper connection to God. Okay. Kaya yan. Kasi later on, hindi na lang naman na puro mga members ang harapin natin. We'll be going out to the community. And we will be talking to the people in the community. Aju? And mag-start na tayo mag-open yan. Mag-open na tayo. Nag-ano na lang, nag-follow up ulit si Ma'am Prado. Sabi niya, tinatapos na daw nila yung program para sa 22, and then we'll be starting with that. Kaya nga yung introduction is, 'di ba? Kung titingnan naman natin, yun yung nagbibigay ng stress sa tao yung conflict within the mind. Okay. Kung ma-correct natin yon, may isaayos natin yon, that would be the beginning point, entry point na we can really create a better environment for the people. Maayos natin in terms of health and in terms of relating with brothers and sisters. Kaya natuwa si Ma'am Prado nung sabi niya, understanding the root cause of stress, centering on the divine principle, universal principle. Okay. And we'll be venturing more into that along the way. Kasi sabi nga niya unti-unti natin na palitan yung nakasanayan nila into a new concept, centering on the principle. Kasi yun naman talaga ang ginagawa ng principle, di ba? Kung ano yung nakasanayan natin, kung ano yung nakagisnan natin, we have to isuppress muna natin and then receive a new learning so that we can become a new individual, and then we can transform, and then we can change ourselves. So doon na tayo ngayon, brothers and sisters, sa UPTA. Okay na yung kahit nakapikit na kayo, alam nyo ng principle kahit nakapikit kahit nakapikit na kayo, meron na nga nananaginip na ng principle Kaya ibig sabihin, what we will be practicing now is more on expressing. Kaya etong bakit dinagdagan natin na mag-search ng Father's words? Para sa ganun makita natin how true Father expresses the divine principle in the different fields of expertise. Kasi yung mga speeches ni Father, di ba, kanino ba niya binigay? Sa mga scientists, sa mga politicians, sa mga religious leaders. And isa lang yung thought na binibigay niya doon. It's the principle. But it is being expressed based on the people na kaharap niya. Adjo? So, and so we are now moving forward, and hopefully na we can have more time to mingle together. Kasi kung magkaroon na tayo ng maraming mga schedules na, pag mag-start na mag-scheduling at marami na mag-invite sa atin, nako, medyo mahirapan na tayo. Okay, so let's start to, kaya sabi ni Doc V kanina, let's always remind ourselves. Ito yung assignment ko. I have to do this. I have to find this. Nang sa ganon, I can really be prepared. I can make myself be really prepared. And pag masanay na tayo na lagi nating iniisip yung mga words ni Father, hindi na nating madali na lang yung madali na lang maghalungkat along the way. Okay? Kaya dapat, isa rin na meron kaya dapat yung compilation of speeches of True Father. Pwede nyo naman i-download din yun doon sa website na tparents.org. Meron doon yung mga speeches ni Father. Pwede rin yung i-download doon. Para sa ganun, you can always check. From 1956 to 2010. Pero meron ng mga after 2010 na speech ni Father, lalo na yung Las Vegas na speech ni Father. Kasi yung speech ni Father sa Las Vegas is more on combating chapter 2 yun eh. This making Sin City to Sun City. Yung sa mga chapter 2 na mga lecture natin, marami makukuha dun sa Las Vegas na speech ni Father. Because transformation of Sin City to Sun City. And doon din sinabi ni Father na last battle natin is yung LGBT. Na if we cannot really correct that, it will be a bigger problem in our next generation. Or it will be the destruction of human race. So yun. So brothers and sisters, let's enjoy more studying Father's words and then connecting it to the principle and then sharing it to our brothers and sisters. Kasi yun lang yung way para sa ganun we can develop ourselves, develop others, and raise more people who will understand God's heart, and we can build a better community together. So, yan. Bago pa mag 10 o'clock, magandang gabi po.
Thank you very much. Before we close, kita nyo na to? Hindi.
Ano yun, Doki?
Teka.
Maliwanag, Dok.
Saan natin? Naniningil. Hindi pa rin kita.
Maliwanag po.
Ilayo mo ng konti, Dok. Kasi nagre-reflect yung light.
Yun. Reminder.
Ayun.
Basahin ko na. Reminder. Nandun po. Reminder. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 12 to 15. For those who have still a balance in their UPTA tuition, please to kindly just channel their payments to this GCash number. Thank you. Nandun po yun sa group natin. Drop na tayong lahat. Ano daw? Kasi baka ako lang nakabasa. Kaya pinapabasa. Baka ako lang nakabasa.
Hindi pa nga po ako naman.
Pero doon, Doc, na-unseen yun doon eh. Walang nakatingin doon. Unseen yung doon sa pare-pareho tayo pinag-usapan natin. We should stabilize ourselves. So this is our portion of responsibility. I think we should start magtipid. Sige, hindi na akong kakain ice cream tsaka chocolate. Yan. So, ayun po. And another thing, so maganda rin kasi yung noon, nung di ba nag-present tayo, tayong tatlo yun, Andrew and Randy, sa mga estudyante na mga kabatch ni Colleen, sabi namin yun din, introduction pa lang. Parang, maraming palang paraan paano manggamot ng pasyente. Kasi it's balance of mind, body, and spirit, and unity of ourselves, di ba? Parang gano'n. Kaya, totoo, kahit doktor, kahit sa amin. Kasi yung mga ni-lecturean namin is mga board examinees. Mag-exam sila sana noong September. Hindi ko sila maistorbo. Ito na naman daw October 1. October 30, 31, 1 and 2. Kaya yun.
Kaya anybody, whoever is in our front, kaya natin ito. So, so we have 2 minutes. Any last word? Take the 30 seconds. If
May tanong
none,
lang ako, Doki.
yeah po.
It has nothing to do with the undertaking. Ano lang, curious lang ako. Paano mo nasasabi na ang blood types are match or not match?
Ano po yan? Magba-blood transfusion? Blood transfusion. Alam ko yung blood transfusion. Minamatch namin. Meron kaming sa pathology. Yung ba yung gusto niyong malaman? Ha? Wala kang sounds. I cannot hear
don't
you
know
po.
what does the person mean, pero maybe I will ask again.
Opo. Kasi po kami pagka in case of emergency, may OR, kailangan ng dugo, we match the blood. Kung blood type O ka, RH positive, ima-match ka. So kahit
Anong
O,
sabihin pag negative?
RH negative, mga Caucasian yun. Bihira yun sa Pilipinas, sa Pilipino. Ang isa ay si Janice de Belen. O, kilala ka? Kilala yung si Janice de Belen? Siya ang isang RH negative. Mahirap yung kasi pag nag-confuse. Okay?
Anong meron yan?
Anong wala siya? RH.
Anong wala pala,
Negative siya. RH negative. Mga Caucasian, yung mga Americans yun. Milahi siya. Yeah. Okay pa?
Pero dami yung naging anak di ba? Mahirapan dapat mag-anak yun eh.
Oo. Pero kasi parati siya siguro pine-prepare ng ano.
Okay.
Ito naman mga anak. Gandang lahi
ano naman yung sickle test, sickle cell? Ano naman yun?
Sickle cell is a hereditary disease. Pag may sickle cell trait at saka sickle cell, pareho tayo may sickle cell, male and female, parehong recessive. Pag nagsama, kawawa yung bata, hindi ka makakabuhay, mamamatay.
Ay, ano yung SS at saka ES? Ano yun?
SS?
Sa sickle cell yan, Hindi ko ilaman. Meron nagka-mention sa akin. Okay.
Sorry, kasi SSS lang alam ko. Social Security System. Okay
Akala ko, Doc, yung SSS na sinabi mo, 2 million yung allowance.
Alam yun. Okay. So, I think it's 10 o'clock. We're on time. Medyo na-late lang ako kanina kasi nakalimutan ko lang paano mag-login sa Universal Peace. So, may I ask who will close? Si Kuya Julius ang closing prayer. Thank you very much.
Hey, everybody, please join me in prayer. Our loving Heavenly Parent and victorious Providence of Heaven, Earth, and humankind, good evening. We are so grateful for this evening as we've done with our session with UPTA, having this practice of the divine principle, and we learn a lot. We learn from the lecturers, and pray that we could really present well, and also prepare ourselves more internally, especially having a spiritual foundation that we could really give life to our participants. And also we should also add with more father's words, and this is really a great asset for every one of us to really know your words as well as how to present it, especially to our tribes, as we are destined to be tribal messiahs. And also doing this, that we could know more your heart, deeply your heart, and from that we could have these tribes to really share this truth to everyone and proclaim our true parents to everyone. And we are fortunate that we have we are in this era of our parents, because this is really the time that we could see transformation from this sinful world into ultimately realizing your ideal world, the substantial kingdom of heaven on earth. And also, every one of us also could also have this transformation from this fallen state into your original state because of our tribes. And we have really to inculcate to our minds the importance of bringing our tribes to the blessing. And we have to also educate them to become partners in really taking ownership, taking our responsibilities to substantialize your kingdom of heaven on earth. Again, we thank you for our learnings this evening, and please continuously bless our group, and that we could really expand, we could really entice others to join with us to become your mouthpiece and be able to spread your words to everyone. And thank you for the opportunity and for having our session this evening. I'd like to offer this with gratefulness and humbly offer this prayer and report in my name and my wife's name, Julius Santana, is Kratos in the Blessed Family. Aju.
Aju, please open your camera at ating heart na kabayo. Your face is your responsibility and your heart is your responsibility. Smile lang ah. Okay, smile. Okay, next. Yung ba sunod? Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Next. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you po. Good night. Be safe.
Good night,
Erwin, magpa-araw ka. Alis
everybody.
ka, Kuya Randy.
Tomorrow.
Alis ka.
Hindi matuloy, Doc,
Everyone.
dahil naghigpit lalo.
Ay, oo. Naku, baka mag-ano ka lang doon. Ano yun? Tawag doon? Naka-quarantine ka for 2 weeks.
Quarantine.
Absent ka na, hindi ka pagbalik mo. Sayang. Okay, good night po. Si Kuya Herwin na ang
Sige
host.
po.
Ikaw na